إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهديه فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد فإن خير الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Did anybody get the latest information on Hajj? The statistics on attendees? It's just been about it's been about a month. It's still fresh on people's minds. You know, the welcome back Hajj parties are going on and things like that, right? It's what, maybe usually what, in the millions now, 1 to 2 millions. In recent years, some years back, it was actually over 3 million. Estimated over 3 million. This was in like 2013, something along those lines. So it's in the millions every year. It's really amazing, you know. Has anybody got to go to Hajj or had family or relation, anything? Everyone knows someone for the most part who did that. And as Muslims, we know that's amazing. It's an amazing, very spiritual, historical event. A piece of history is made every single year with this really blessed event. You know? We know that as Muslims, but what's really amazing, if you look at modern times, is there are more and more media reports, right, by non-Muslims. There's more and more coverage. It's being talked about in public schools. You know, even documentaries are being made about Hajj by non-Muslims. So it's become this worldwide phenomenon. It's discussed every year, not just by Muslims, but by non-Muslims as well. Every year, it's this worldwide phenomenon, global phenomenon. Alhamdulillah. So at this point, it's reached. You ever look back and think, like, how did it get so far? Where did it start at? What was the first Hajj like? And when you look back, you think of when Allah Azza wa Jal ordered Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam to establish the Kaaba. And he said in the Quran, he told Ibrahim alayhi salam, "Adin fin nasi bil Hajj." Call mankind to Hajj. Call them to this house, to this pilgrimage. And it was said, Ibrahim alayhi salam said, how can I call him? How can I do this? Just a man, you know, he's a prophet of Allah Azza wa Jal. But Ibrahim alayhi salam was just a man with normal abilities. There was no technology at that time. There was no news. There wasn't even a microphone. And Allah Azza wa Jal said, "Fin nasi bil Hajj." All of mankind to Hajj. So Ibrahim alayhi salam said, how can I do this? I'm just a man with a voice in the desert. How can I call all of mankind to Hajj? But Allah Azza wa Jal said, just call. Just make the call. And we, I mean Allah will convey it. You do what you can. You use your voice. We will convey it. So Ibrahim alayhi salam complied. And he called all of mankind to Hajj. Oh mankind, Allah has established His house. Come make pilgrimage to it, to Kaaba. And it was said that the mountains lowered, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused Ibrahim alayhi salam, his voice, to reach to the point where even those still in the wombs of their mother, still in the loins of their father, all of mankind can hear this call. Allah blessed it. So all of mankind to this day is still answering this call. And to this day, whoever Allah wills comes to Hajj, saying, at your service, O Allah, at your service. Labaik Allahumma labaik. And look where it's reached. We just talked about that, right? What the millions it's reached now. And it all started from the voice of one man. But the point here is, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses an effort, even if it's the one voice, the call of voice, when Allah Azza wa Jal puts a blessing in it, there's no limit to success. There's no limit to the results. And while we're on the topic of Hajj, you can see in some of the rituals of Hajj, some of the things that are commemorated, you can see this example. Anyone familiar with Safa and Marwa? In Hajj, you ever see the pilgrims, they're running back and forth? The people making Hajj, you ever seen that? Or maybe you've experienced it, a family running back and forth. Between Safa and Marwa, there are two hills, right? There are 2 points. You ever think, why are we doing this? What is this commemorating? What is this a ritual of? And Allah Azza wa Jalla, He ordered Ibrahim alayhi salam to leave his wife Hajar and their baby in the desert, right? We know the story. and leave them. And normally at this time, no resources, no water, just a mother and her baby. This for normal people would seem like a death sentence, right? And Hajar, they complied. They listened to their Lord. And when her milk ran out, her baby did start dying of dehydration. So what did she do? What could she do? She ran back and forth, right? From Safa to Marwa, running from one point to another, running back and forth 7 times. This is what you can do, looking for water, looking for help, checking her baby, seeing the baby's dying more and more of dehydration. This is the one thing she can do out of desperation, running back and forth, looking for help. Until Allah Azza wa Jal sent who? Angel Jibreel alayhi salam, right? The mightiest of angels to strike the ground for her. And what came out? Zamzam, yeah, you got it. The well of Zamzam. The greatest water humanity has ever been blessed with. To the point where this water, you go look it up. Go look it up after Khutbah. You can see there's research that's done. Scientists have studied this water, this miraculous water. It's very special. And to the point where it's been spread throughout all the world. You can go to Al Jabani and buy this water now, if it's in stock, right? I mean, that's the point this has reached. It's amazing. But what had to happen first? Couldn't Allah Azza wa Jal, think about it, couldn't, if the baby's dying of dehydration, couldn't Allah Azza wa Jal just made the spring come forth right away? Of course. But still, in fact, he didn't even have to send Angel Jibreel alayhi salam to strike the ground. Allah could have done it. But you're seeing the way. You're seeing Allah is teaching us a lesson in every single one of these things. Run back and forth. Just do what you can. And then Allah will bless it. Do your effort. Doesn't matter how small it is. Then turn to Him, and Allah can bless it. And then there's no limit. Another ritual of Hajj that exemplifies it, very interesting, is in Mina. When you go to Mina at the bridge of Jamarat, right? When you go there, you see people throwing pebbles, right? They're throwing the pebbles at the statue. It's supposed to be shaitan, right? What's the story behind this? It's another very interesting one. When Allah Azza wa Jalla ordered Ibrahim alayhi salam to sacrifice his son, Ismail, another prophet, peace be upon them both, they were going to do. So obviously this wasn't something you want to do. Already this is a challenging thing. Of course, father and son loved each other, but they complied. As prophets of Allah, they complied. As pious men, they complied. So it's already a difficult thing. Think about what's going through their mind. I have to go sacrifice my son. It's a test. I know it's a test, but I got to do it. Right? And he's going forward to do this. And who appears at Jamarat? Shaitan. As if it wasn't a challenge enough, Shaitan has to show up. The worst enemy of creation. That's the one who's bothering even us till today, right? Whispering in our ears, calling you towards bad, all this stuff. So what could Ibrahim alayhi salam do? He did what he picked up pebbles and he threw them. And you would think, this is shaitan. What are pebbles going to do? Right? This is the biggest enemy of mankind for eternity. But he picked up pebbles and he threw them. He threw 7 pebbles and he just kept throwing them at shaitan. And Allah blessed it. And in this effort, shaitan took off. It worked. And Ibrahim alayhi salam and Ismail alayhi salam were victorious. And we know the rest of the story. Instead, they complied and Allah allowed them to sacrifice an animal instead. But just pebbles. Just pebbles. Victory. How do you do that? Another story I love, and it's now we're moving aside from Hajj, but a story I personally love, and that has to do with the highest woman of Islam. Who's the highest woman in Islam? Maryam. Yeah, you got it. Maryam, the mother of Prophet Isa. Prophet Jesus, peace be upon him. So her miraculous pregnancy and birth. It's beautiful to read the story. Very beautiful. So she was given a miraculous pregnancy, never touched by a man, very pure, never married, right? The highest woman, very pure, very respected, very pious. So already when the pregnancy came, yes, this was miraculous, but it was a bit of a challenge. Because think about it, even in this time, you've never been a man, you're not married, and suddenly you're pregnant, people are going to say things. That evil gossip comes around, right? So Maryam, especially in those times when honor was much more sacred, and she was such a pious woman, this was already a stress. Think about it, it's already a stress. Let alone having to deal with labor. So she has this going on and the labor kicks in. So when she goes into labor, and I'm sure most of us, if not all of us know the story, she retreated toward a date palm tree to go give birth. Right? Now, nowadays, we know we have advanced medical technology. We have doctors and nurses and midwives and medicine and things like that. And, still, don't ever tell a woman birth is easy. Even with all of that, alhamdulillah, it's been easy, you still can't tell a woman birth is easy. Because it's a challenging thing, even with all the advancements, right? It's still tough. It's still tough, alhamdulillah. I've seen it, I know. I haven't done it, so I don't fully know. Alhamdulillah. But, really, may Allah bless all our mothers, our wives, everyone has gone through, and make it easy on all the future mothers. So it's still an effort. Allah can make it easy, but no matter what, it's an effort. Allah wants. But at that time, with no medical technology, no advancement, no doctors, no midwives, no nurses, no nothing, she's all on her own. Not only that, ask a lot of women, ask your moms, ask people who give birth, ask your sisters, your wives, whatever, ask them about labor itself, and ask them about if they had anybody with them. Just support. It didn't have to be a doctor. It could have been someone with no medical advice. It could have been a really close friend. Usually it's a family member. And ask them how that support, just having that person next to them, holding their hand or whatever, and giving that moral support, how helpful it was. That can make all the difference. Just having that person next to them, right? But Mary had nobody. She didn't have doctors. She didn't have medicine. She didn't even have a friend. Totally alone. But she had Allah, and she needs to call upon Allah. So she retreated and she had layer prints, and it was, alhamdulillah, it was a challenging event, but she was successful, alhamdulillah, and she was able to give birth. But along in the story, you see one thing. At one point, she called to Allah. She needed something, because when you give birth and when people think you need nourishment. You need nourishment. You need food. You need energy. It's something that really drains you. It's something that's very, very difficult for women. So they need something. So she asked Allah Azza wa Jalla. She asked her for something. She asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if he can, bless her with this. She needed nourishment and nutrition and, to help revive you. It's a normal thing. But what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do? After all of this, what did Allah Azza wa Jalla tell her? وَخُزِّي إِلَيْكِ بِجِذْءِ النَّخْلَةِ بِجِذْءِ النَّخْلَةِ. Right? Shake the tree, the date palm tree, shake it towards you. And then the date palm. And she did. Now we've all said, alhamdulillah, we're in Southern California. We know what palm trees and things look like. Some people don't have the blessing of knowing what a palm tree is, But we've seen it. And have you ever messed with them? The school football team probably couldn't shake one down. You get me and Ashraf and all, we still couldn't do it. And he's asking this woman by herself who's just going to just shake the tree. And she did so. She complied. She listened to what Allah said, and the dates fell. And she got her nourishment. He blessed her with water. She was blessed. It was a beautiful, successful birth and experience that's commemorated and celebrated and honored to this day. But he said, make your effort, shake the tree, shake this tree, make that effort. So there's a lot of lessons that you can take from this. But one of the principal lessons is you make an effort, right? And it's not about cruising. It's not about, I'm not saying, oh, look at all these little efforts. You just do little things and let others do everything. No. That's not the lesson here. That's not the point. The point is capacity. You do what's in your capacity, even if that's a little thing. And then you can get great success when it's told. Allah can bless any small deed to become a huge success. And when you think of that, you realize, alhamdulillah, there's no situation that's hopeless. Be really careful with that word. You hear that a lot. People are like, oh, this situation, whatever they're seeing or hearing about or reading on the news, oh, it's hopeless. Hopeless, right? Don't be careful with that word. Because right now, as a people, as an ummah, we really, really need hope. Right? Hope is severely important to us as an ummah right now. Hope is dire. And along with hope, what's also very important is an understanding of success. What does it mean to be successful? Really think about it. And it's simple. Allah Azza wa Jalla explains in the Quran. وَمَن يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ وَيَخْشَ اللَّهَ وَيَتَّقِهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَائِزُونَ. Whoever obeys Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and keeps their duty to Him, they are successful. That's pretty simple, right? You obey Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, keep your duty to Him, you strive for good, and you love and fear Allah, and that's it. That's success. So with that in mind, any effort you're making, anything you're doing, right? Anything you're taking a part in, if it is not in line with Islam, if it happens to be un-Islamic, whatever you're taking place in, know that that's something that's not going to lead to success. It won't be successful. And even if you say, hey, it's working for me, I'm getting money out of this, or it's working for me, I'm looking good, or whatever's coming out of it, know that that's temporary, and ultimately it's going to cause you loss if it's not in line with Islam. And that's something to know. So really keep that in mind. And that leads into one other thought is the whole worldliness, right? We're talking about success now, with that worldly mentality, right? And we've heard this tons of times. I'm not going to be on. You always hear about that, don't be material, and it's not about materials and things like that. We hear that a lot, right? People talk about that all the time. Oh, it's not all about money, it's not. Now, don't take that too hard. I mean, academic success, financial success, these are important. You should strive for them because these provide you with resources to do well for yourself, to do well for your family. These can provide resources for the ummah, so you should be successful. But you keep it in context and prioritizing. Right? You don't become worldly out of it. And we've hit that many times. We've seen that mentioned. I won't even hit on that. But what I will hit on, which I don't think is covered a lot, is the application of this worldly concept to Islamic work. Think about that. Because a lot of us are doing that. We're falling into traps like this. You know, I'm talking to myself more than anything. A lot of us are falling into this concept of worldliness being applied to Islamic work. Think about it. The biggest masjid, right? The highest position on the board, you know, the speaker with the most likes, the most follows. Who organized the biggest conference? Which MSA made the best video in the competition? Now, some of these are good things. I said some. I didn't say some of these are good things, right? Actually, there's nothing wrong with that. But again, don't. Because when you look at ayat, when you look at hadith, when you look at stories from scholars, things that have reached us that have been preserved, when you look at them and you start seeing these beautiful Islamic stories, you start realizing how simple they are. You know, you see a lesson. One story maybe, one sahabi, he was nice to his parents. He was nice to his parents. Or this woman, this sahabi, she was kind to an animal. That's it. Or so-and-so, he helped a stranger. Or this sahabi, she fed one person. One person. In fact, there's a beautiful hadith of our beloved mother, the mother of the believers and wife of the Prophet ﷺ, in which people came to her, they needed something. You know, they were starving. They're in a poor situation. And she gave them 3 days. Remember that, 3 days. Just gave them a few days. That's what she had. That's what she had to give. They were rich. She gave them 3 days. And this is what she could do, and this helped her. But this story, this incident of giving 3 dates has been preserved in hadith, has been memorized, has reached us today, has been translated, has been talked about by scholars, has been preserved in books to this day. 3 dates. And look at the impact. This is one thing Allah chose to honor, this one incident, and that's it. So what can you take from that? Everyone has something to offer. If a date or half a date can bring good. If a date or half a day is something that's honored, that Allah sees as honorable, that Allah will honor you by. Everybody has something to offer. Everyone has something to give. And remember, Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Quran, وَمَن يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ. Whosoever does an atom's weight of good, just an atom's weight of good, you'll see it. I can't even make my hand to I'm doing this. That can't even imitate an atom. It's so small, right? You can't even see it. An atom's weight of good, you'll see it. It won't go in vain. How many atoms are in a date? Or half a date? Or a single dollar you give to children with disabilities, right? How many atoms are in something like that? I don't know. Anyone know? This is a good school. You guys have an idea. It's a real good school. It doesn't make, we don't need to know. We know it's a lot, right? That's the point. It's okay we don't know. We know it's a lot. But the important thing is Allah Azza wa Jalla knows. Allah knows how much. So nothing you do will ever go in vain. With that in mind, there is no deed, no good deed done sincerely that is too small. And more importantly, none of us are too small. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. The Prophet ﷺ told us, he taught us in hadith, to beware of the dua of the oppressed. Beware of the dua of the oppressed. Right? Beware of their call to Allah. He warned about this. It's more of a warning to the time. Because Allah has put power. He has honored the oppressed by giving this ability just to raise their hands, and He will answer them. Just by raising their hands, they have this effect. This is something that Allah has honored them by. So you think, who are the oppressed? And sadly, subhanAllah, it's a long and growing list, right? For the oppressed, it's a long list. We can go on and on, unfortunately, subhanAllah, naming it, and the list keeps going. Our brothers and sisters, young and old, throughout the world, suffering, atrocities, calamities, victims of tyranny, and so forth. It's a long list of who the oppressed are. But they are the people in the weakest of situations, right? The most dire situations, the people in the poorest situations. Unfortunately, they are the poorest of people, right? In the most difficult states, most difficult situations, the weakest and poorest. But these are the people Allah has chose to honor. Allah has chose to give them power just by raising their hand, just by doing this and calling on to Him. Allah has granted that. Now think about this for a minute, because in our society, in fact in our whole world, it's the opposite. It's usually the opposite, right? Who are the people who get noticed by the people of power, who have their way, who get what they want from them? Typically, what do we know that as? It's the wealthy, not just the wealthy, the super wealthy, right? The big wigs, the people with political influence and connections and things like that, right? They're the ones who get recognized, usually by the people in power and lobbying to get what they want, things like that. But in Islam, it's different. In Islam, Allah has honored the people who are in low situations, the people who may be seen as nameless, who may be seen as small people, as nobodies. These are the people who are given honor just by raising their hands, just by making these small efforts. So all you have to do is make a small effort, and that's the point. No one is nameless in front of Allah. So everybody has something. Everybody has some kind of cause, whatever it is. Remember, it's never too small. Allah blesses it. We should always keep that in mind. And while we're on the topic of the oppressed, and we're going to close with this. While we're on the topic of the oppressed, we are constantly, every day, getting news, more and more news. You know, things happening, sad events and tragedies, so forth, and people in need. One of the things people need, we keep getting this news all the time, right? And what's our reaction? You know, usually our action is it's upsetting. We get upset, and there's nothing wrong with that. Indifference, there's something wrong with. There's definitely something wrong with that. But when you get this reaction, when you see this news on our side of the screen, because it is our side of the screen, think of your reaction. You're upset. Sometimes you curse the people doing it. And I mean curse, not cuss, right? Sometimes you may curse the people doing this. You may say something out loud. You get upset. You feel hurt. You may even cry. That's a good thing. Our hearts should be soft. Our hearts should be soft for the Ummah. Our hearts should be soft for humanity. That's a good thing. But after upsetting, it should be motivating. Because you know every single one of us has something to offer. What it is based upon us, how Allah has blessed us differently. But everyone has something to offer. So besides upsetting, it should become motivating. And with everything we've discussed in this khutbah, everything that's been mentioned, when the next time you see something like this, you see an event, something hits you, a goal hits you, a cause hits you, something on the news, on your side of the screen, the next time you see something like that, just think to yourself, just think to yourself, with me, myself, with my abilities, with whatever small resources I have, with my personal situation and capabilities, when I see this, what's a fair reaction? Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad kama sallaita ala Sayyidina Ibrahim wa ala ali Sayyidina Ibrahim innaka Hamidun Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidun Majid. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to bless all of us and our loved ones with the greatest of success in this life and the next. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to ease the suffering of the Muslims and humanity all throughout the world. And we ask Allah to make our efforts, no matter how small, a part of this relief. Lastly, we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to bless us and our loved ones with the highest level of Jannah and to be reunited with our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. اللهم فوق قيد رأسنا ورأس المسلمين وردهم إلى أهلهم سالمين اللهم من أدهم فأده ومن أدهم فأده اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين وذل الشرك والمشركين ودمر أعداء الدين واحمي حوزة الإسلام يا رب العالمين. قيم الصلاة.